who've joined us today for this afternoon webinar with the University of Westminster. So we've got Jane here with us, who is an international officer at the university, and will be providing you a lot of information about studying in London. I am from SIUK, and we are working very closely with the University of Westminster to help you and give you some guidance on studying in the UK. So after the presentation, if you've got any questions, you can pop them in the chat. In the meantime, do interact with us. Let us know where you're from, what courses you're interested in studying, and I'll pop in our contact details as well in the chat box so you can ask us any questions after the event is over as well. But yeah, here's introducing Jane. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jane, and I'll let you start the presentation then.
Great, thank you. And yes, please do ask questions as we go along. And it's nice, I can see people are putting their destinations in and telling us what subjects you're interested in. So that's great, because I can try and tailor things a little. So I'm in London. I'm not actually at our Regent Street site that's behind me, but I am in London today. So hello, everybody, wherever you are. I hope you're all having a good Friday. And I'm going to talk generally today about international students and education in London, and then introduce you a little bit to Westminster, but really happy for you to ask any questions. So I'm in the international team at Westminster, and I work really closely with SIUK. So if you want to get in touch with them or with me or both of us afterwards, please do. I work as part of a team, so there are a whole group of us who look after different regions. If I don't know a specific entry requirement for your country, I'll check with one of my colleagues and introduce you. But I work with sort of UK International, SIUK, and I also look after the Americas, but really happy to take questions from anywhere. And if, as I say, if I don't know, I'll introduce you to my colleague who does. So hopefully you'll be able to follow properly with the presentation. We won't get stuck. So I'm going to talk about London first of all, and why you should come and study with us here. And then go through the subjects and talk a little bit about the UK degree structure, how things work, and explain the application process, entry requirements, and then lots of time for questions. But do go ahead and ask them, and I'll try and answer them as I go along if I see them in the chat, or if Ravina or Rabia realise they'll ask as we go along. So London as a study destination, it's you don't need to take it from us. It is consistently rated the top student city to study in the world. So not including 2020, obviously 2021, when nobody's really travelling anywhere. In 2019, London was #1, and that's chosen by international students based on their experience of studying here and what they've enjoyed. So I think that really shows it's a fantastic location if you're coming to do, whether it's your first degree, master's, or further study. And in case you haven't seen anything like this before, in 2018, London was also voted top. So, it is really, that really hopefully does say something. So in terms of why, and why is it such a great student city? So obviously you've got the academic heritage of London. So, we have more than 45 higher education institutions. You've got a course offering and subject areas covering more than 30,000 programmes. Of all types of study and learning in different kinds of institutions, and I will come a little bit more onto that later when I talk a bit more about Westminster itself. You've got a picture there of students in one of our libraries. We have still got, depending on how you classify it, the largest library in terms of catalogued items in the world. So that's the British Library, and that is just down the road from our central London campuses. And that's really, it's more about all of those resources that you have as a student. So across all the London institutions, the museums and galleries, of which there are more than 1,000, all these libraries and events going on within universities, you'll have access to that if you're studying at whichever university in London you choose. So you've got that environment, the study environment, the access to using these resources, and just enjoying that student life while you're here. So I think that's the first thing in terms of student life. Then if you're thinking about London for study, you're also thinking about your future, your career. Even if you don't know what it is you're going to do yet, but it looks like quite a few of you are fairly focused, so that's great. But maybe you still don't know. But choosing a destination to study in where you're also going to get that access and exposure to the industries that you're interested in, to employers, opportunities for placement and work experience, but also in terms of, because of where we're located, the number of speakers we get coming in to give masterclasses to our students, the competitions and company events that you'll be able to be involved in really make a difference, both as part of your study, we include it where we can in the curriculum and in your studies, but also outside of the classroom when you're thinking about other ways that you can really develop your skills while you're with us. So London is still, it's a creative and financial capital of the world, as you've got there. We, in terms of the UK, London has more jobs than any other city in the UK. We 3 times more multinational headquarters than other European cities. If you're comparing and you're looking all over the world and you're thinking, hey, well, I would be going to thinking about the US for the industry, the profession that I'm focused on. Well, actually, London has those branches of all those companies, and you've got the experience of being here. You've got the culture and the history of London, the great student city life and environment, and you've got that exposure to those companies as well. So Westminster itself, because of where we are in the city of Westminster, hence our name, which is part of central London, we're part of a Regent Street Quarter group. Because of everything that we have on our doorstep, as it says there, there are more than 1 million businesses operating around us. So because of that, it's great in terms of the industry partners that we have, the links that we have for our students for placements, but also those other events, and we really focus on that as an institution. So you're obviously thinking about your subject, and you're thinking about the areas that you're interested in and your profession and career for the future, but think as well about the learning environment you want to study in, and then what else can you benefit from where you're going to be. And it is really, really key. It's a huge investment to come and do, whether it's a degree or a master's course, and then you want to be thinking about how else it's really going to benefit and help you, and being in London definitely should. I should mention here as well that London itself, obviously Greater London, I don't know if we were able to be a bit more interactive, I'd say, can you guess how many people, the population of London, maybe but Greater London obviously is large. I think it's 9 million. But in terms of London and the city of London, so central London and where Westminster is, it's actually a very small area. It's very accessible, it's very safe. And that's when you're thinking about all the companies and the institutions, they're really within that radius of central London and that area. So a little bit of, I think many people know, I don't know, have any of you been to London? If there's anyone on here who's been to London, do say. It'd be great to know. Maybe some of you are here at the moment. But so obviously you've got the professional, you've got the academic, and then thinking about the social and the environment of being with us. So you've got a picture of some of our students in a park here. There are hundreds of parks. Oh, great, we have got somebody from London, that's great. I won't only be talking about London because maybe you know all of this already. But you've got all of the different activities when things are hopefully back to normal, of restaurants, live gigs, all those museums and over 800 galleries available to you. It's great to see that some people have been, so hopefully you know some of this. When you come and live, sometimes when you come as a visitor, you don't get to see everything, but you'll really get to explore a different side when you're with us. And the other aspect, obviously, as London, is that it is a cosmopolitan global city. And that means it's fantastic in terms of you building contacts and networks. Also, hopefully you would feel welcome and you'll be learning, as you're here, not just in the classroom. So you've got a mention there of the number of international students with us and the different languages in London. Westminster really reflects that. We're really international. We consistently rank one of the top international student institutions. We've got more than 165 different nationalities across our student and staff body. And what that means for you, really, which people maybe don't consider, is about coming in to study an environment where we're used to teaching students from different educational backgrounds, where you're going to get that exposure in the classroom to students from not just London and the UK, but lots of places. And that in your future, what our alumni say, what they really appreciated was having those networks and also developing those soft skills as part of their study experience. And our academics are really used to teaching people from different study environments and backgrounds. I think some is muted. If you wouldn't mind muting yourself, that would be great, just so that everyone else can hear. Thank you. And nice to see that somebody's hoping to visit number one destination. Well, hopefully you'll be joining us soon. And then you've got obviously a picture here of the National Gallery and reflecting all of the other events and the social side, all of the fun things to do, the nightlife in London, also the sporting. People think of London and don't always think of sports, but Westminster itself has some fantastic sports facilities. We actually have a big sports area near the Thames, and we have a rowing club, unusually for a modern institution. But a lot of our students, where we don't have the sports themselves, there'll be London leagues and clubs that you can join and do things alongside your study. So whichever university you're at, you might also be taking part in London clubs and events. And then there's everything and all the other events on offer as we return, hopefully, to being able to do those kind of things soon. So all the theatres, the music, and it's important to note as well, although I think it's quite obvious and you may well know, we do have 5 international airports around the city centre. So in terms of accessibility, as well as the international train and the network for train across the UK. So whether it's because you want to be able to visit and go home in the holiday, or because you'd like to explore and get to know the rest of England, the rest of the UK, or the rest of Europe, it's really good to know that as things open up again, that it is available to you, and it makes it really easy. So hopefully all of these things have already persuaded you that London, it really is a great choice. But I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail about some of the subject areas, and when you're thinking about your subject and why you should consider us for your subject. So finance, I think, is covered. We are still, although I know with changes at the moment, this could be slightly out of date, the number one trading, so more currency trading happens in London than anywhere else in the world. We've talked about the number of companies. Important to think about that. They're global companies. We're not just talking about the UK here. Wherever you're going to be working in the future, we do have those links, and you have got those opportunities to network with a lot of big industry. So our Regent Street building, the one that's behind me, is actually just along the road from the BBC building. BBC is still one of the largest broadcasters. The media and communications industry is really large in London, and I think we come to this in a second, but in terms of film and advertising as well, London, as it says there, is third for film production. So music is a subject we're really strong at and good at, and we have those, it's not just in terms of the market for music and how strong London is in comparison with Europe, but if you're thinking about big companies, obviously a lot of them are US-based companies. They have branches in London. Fashion, there are 4 fashion capitals of the world, and London's a really great one. And Westminster does fashion very well, and we get to, our students get to show their work at the same time as London Fashion Week. And we have a great showcase at our Baker Street campus, and also use different venues in central London. So a lot of it all comes together in the course of where we are. You get the exposure, and you also get the access to all these different companies and opportunities. I know you said that you'd like to come and visit, and hopefully you'll be coming to study, but if you're thinking about anything across tourism, London up to pre-pandemic was the most visited city in the world. And so when you're looking at something like a tourism or events management course, where better to study it? You've got all those case studies on your doorstep. I can carry on with all the subjects. We're really near to down the road from the Law Society School. Society's not too far from us. You've got the Architects Registration Board very close to our architecture faculty. You've got all the events that happen in London across those areas. You've got the development of tech firms in London, which is something that people don't really think about when they may necessarily think about the UK or about London, but all these different opportunities. So really, think about London, think about the course. You've got that fantastic offering across institutions, across subject areas, but you're also, that the UK has a very strong academic system, a very robust education, and it will be recognised wherever you're going to afterwards. But also you've got that opportunity for the links and exposure, the placements, as well as the enjoyment of the cultural experience and all the history and social events that happen in London. And hopefully, you'll come and join us and see that actually it is a very welcoming city. And on top of all of that, you've got the UK experience, you've got the opportunity to study outside your home country, probably maybe doing some subjects that are available here that may not be available to you depending on where you are at the moment. And then a different education system, which I'll talk a little bit more about now. And then in terms of Westminster, we really are, because of our location, part of the city. We use London as much as possible, and we have those links to industry and companies. You've got them that we work closely with that will help you. We're very international, very diverse, and look forward to people joining us in September and beyond. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about who we are and what we offer, but I won't go too much into that. Some of you have put some subject areas, but for anyone else who's joining now, please do let me know if you've got questions about a specific subject, wanting to know about courses, and we can talk about that as well. So we were established as one of the first polytechnics to teach Londoners professional skills in the early 1800s. And that is really what we still do today. So in terms of the subjects that we teach, which are all very applied and professional focused, in terms of the environment and the learning style that we offer. So many of our academics also have current experience in their field. And in terms of the fact that we really try and use everything that we have around the city as part of the course. Curriculum are checked and to be industry relevant. We have projects, case studies where you'll be working maybe in a London company. So the journalism students will be out on the street looking for stories in London. The business students have lots of opportunities for competitions and events. So whatever it is, we're really trying to bring London into the classroom. So there are courses about global economy and the London economy. There are courses depending on what you're looking for. So our museums and galleries studies works in conjunction with the Museum of London, I think the Tate, and some of the other museums. So it's really about making that collaboration and really building on the fact that it's not just that you're enjoying life here and studying, it's very much part of your study experience. We're an average sized institution. We have some quite small classes and cohorts, so about 20,000 students in total, but that's across our 4 buildings. And then within subject areas, I'm happy to tell you more about how they're taught. Very mixed, as I said before. So in terms of European and international students, that accounts for about 4,500, I think, at the moment of those students. And then obviously reflecting London anyhow. So that's sort of us, because when you are thinking about an institution, obviously looking at subjects and study, you do want to think about somewhere that's going to be the right fit for you and what kind of environment you want to study in. So we're not a traditional university, but we have got a long history. But yes, as I say, it's very much about looking at those applied professional areas. So this is, some of you I know are here, so you'll recognise it. Some of you don't know London at all. I've mentioned already that central area of London is really quite small. So that's where our 3 of our campuses are. And then we have one which is about 25 minutes from the centre. That's our digital and creative industries at our Harrow campus. So 25 minutes is a very normal journey to make. So in terms of the central area of London, most people don't live in central London. So it's very much where people come, and it's where all the businesses, the theatres, or the social side is. And so that's just where we are, right in the heart of the city. So our Regent Street building there is on Oxford Street. So if any of you have been on holiday and been shopping, you might recognise that. You've got our Baker Street campus, which you may know for Sherlock Holmes or for Madame Tussauds, again, if you've been as a tourist, and Cavendish. And you can walk between these. It's about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe at the most as a guide. You don't have to. There's public transport, and students get a discount on public transport when they're enrolled with us. But just to give you an idea, in case you don't know. And then our Harrow campus is at a tube station, but you can easily get buses or tubes into town and come to the central London sites if you wish. You don't have to move between sites normally. So if you're choosing to study interior design or psychology, you would be based for interior design at our Marylebone campus. For psychology, you'd be at our Cavendish campus, and all of your teaching would usually be there. The library for your faculty is there. You've got a cafe, student union hub, and different facilities. You're welcome to use the different sites and move between our buildings, but there's not usually a need to for most courses. Maybe if you're taking an optional module or an extra language course as part of your study, then you might come to a different campus, but you don't have to be constantly moving between them. So you don't need to worry about that. So for Westminster, these are our colleges. So we work as 3 colleges with different departments and schools within those. And all of the colleges are fairly different. So I really encourage, if you're interested in ours, which hopefully you are, that you will have a look for your subject and for your department. So look on social media if you want to get in touch with students, attend some of our open events, but make sure you go to the subject area you're interested in, because you will find quite a difference. So this is our Cavendish campus. It's quite small. It's the one it's actually very near to sort of the area where the British Museum is, and around Russell Square, that area. It's next to Warren Street Tube Station, for anyone that is familiar with London. And it's where we teach our computing, biosciences, life sciences, and psychology. Things like global nutrition are often of interest that fit there. Games development, data, business intelligence and data subjects, and then all the biosciences, and we do a lot of research. So if anyone that's looking for biomedical and bioscience research, then you might want to have a look in more detail at the Life Sciences School research pages. So that's the Cavendish campus. It is fairly small and friendly. Then this is the Regent Street campus. This is our original building and our headquarters. But again, it's actually quite small. So we have about 4,500 students in total studying with us, but they're obviously people coming and going, maybe doing other things in London, going to events, working part-time, and then coming to their studies. So you're not always on campus all day, every day when you're with us. But this looks like a very traditional British university, and the subject range here is all the social sciences. So often very popular things like international relations. We have a fantastic department for politics and international relations. They have some really good conferences, events, and the democratic network. So you can find out more about that if you're interested in this subject area. And then slightly more unusual subjects like art and visual culture, mention museums and galleries. And then all across languages, we do a lot of translation, languages, teaching English as a second language. And our law school is just around the corner from here. It sits in its own building and has the library there. We have the mock courtrooms, and it's quite very friendly because you tend to spend a lot of time and see all the law students are together. But you can also use the Regent Street site or any of the others as you'd like. So the Baker Street site that I mentioned there, the one that's opposite to Baker Street and Madame Tussauds. Sorry, I'm just catching up on all your questions. These are probably one of our biggest sites. So Marylebone is a very busy road, but around the back you've got a very nice area of London, and here we have the business school, which I know there's some people interested in business, MBA, so this would be where you would study. And it's also where we have the architecture, so interior design, architecture, if you're looking for any kind of planning, urban design, architectural and environmental design, you would be here. Fantastic studios on the architecture side. On the business side, you've got Bloomberg Suite, you've got MBA set up separately as a suite, and we separate out the undergrad and postgraduate business courses. We're very well known for marketing, and we have a lot of courses with the professional accreditations. So do look on the course pages of our website and you can see the professional accreditations for each programme and see what's offered. We have some new programmes starting September 21 in things like sports management, digital marketing, specialisms, bachelor's and postgraduate level. So do have a look and explore all of those, lots and lots of choices there, and things like fintech, which has become really popular. We're the first university in London, and I think one of the first in the UK, to be awarded the Social Enterprise Award. We've started and mastered in MSc Social Enterprise, and we do things around sustainability and innovation management. So lots of new areas coming on that really reflecting careers of the future. So something you might not be familiar with may really be of interest to you if you want to have a look. I've got to see a question there about costs, and I'm going to come to that in a minute and talk through pricing. So I'll let you know about that, and I'll talk a little bit more about how you do research applications. But I can see there's a question about online study. We don't actually offer, we have some selected professional courses, short courses, which are offered as an online option. SRUK can talk to you afterwards about your specific area and interest and let you know whether Westminster can help or one of their other partners. But we don't normally offer teaching online. It is usually in person. During COVID, we've been online, and I'm happy to talk a bit more about that and how we've dealt with it. But from September onwards, we're hoping it will be on-site teaching again. So this is our last campus, our Harrow campus, and this is the one that's near to Wembley Stadium, if you're a football fan. So it's in North West London. It's only 25 minutes from the centre. And it's much more like a campus feel. So the students studying here are generally doing the creative subjects, and we have all the studio space. So whether that's photography, music, and the editing rooms and recording, fashion, film and TV. So we've got the film, TV and radio studios there. So it's quite a big campus. Students spend a lot of time on site because you might be working on projects and preparing work even though you're not in an actual class or lesson. We've got all the technicians on hand supporting students. We have lots of opportunities when you first join for you to take classes and training to get to know equipment or cameras or whatever it is. So whatever you're coming to study with us, if you haven't had that exposure yet, maybe in your first degree or in school, to use any of these things, you'll have that opportunity. And you can also learn, maybe you're a film student, but you would really like to learn about a bit more of the photography and some of the camera work and borrow those. So you could get the opportunity to do that and get classes. And there are always technicians on hand for support across the different departments here. So it's a great campus, lots going on. We have some fantastic alumni. So we had I think the Royal Television Awards have just happened here, and we had lots of nominations and a few winners. So animation, I know, did really well, the animation course and the TV production course as well. And then we're really well known for things like photography, where we were the first institution in the world to start teaching photographic sciences, I believe, and the other subjects there. And we rank consistently highly for media and communications. So if you want to have a look at those, do have a look at the course pages. And I'm going to come on now to how you apply, costs, and how it all works. So hopefully I'll address all of those last questions. This is just to say that you know we do have accommodation. So it's either on site at our Harrow and Marylebone buildings or across London, and you maybe have a 25-minute journey, something like that, to one of our residences. They're all self-catered. You have your own room, and then you have your own bathroom, and you share a kitchen with 5 or 6 other students. That's generally how it works. There are a few different options. We try and help students who are looking for an alternative option or support you if you'd like to look for a house share. But we do encourage, if you're new to London, especially if you're coming for your first year as an undergraduate, apply to a hall of residence with ours, get used to the city, and then obviously you can move on and explore different areas if you'd like in future years. So in terms of entry requirements and how it works, just to note, in case you're not familiar, so in England and Wales, we offer a 3-year degree programme system. So this is just an example of a degree course. They normally split it into 2 semesters with some core modules, and then you get some option modules that you can choose depending on your interest. And you tend to get more of those as you go through the years. And then it's 3 years, but most of our programs offer the option for you to do a work placement year and gain industry experience if you'd like, or maybe go to a study abroad, so you go to a 3rd destination, study with a partner. So if you choose to do that, then you may do 4 years of study, and you would go for that exchange or that internship year, sometimes known as a co-op year. You do that in the middle. So you study for 2 years, go out for the placement for the 3rd, and come back for your final year. But it's 3 years of an undergraduate degree in the UK. So that's just to give you an idea. In terms of your course, do look on our website, look at the course pages. There's lots of information on the course pages, giving you guides to core subjects. You can compare what's covered at Westminster compared to a similar subject at another university. So do have a look at that as well. And then master's courses are 1 year. So we split that into 2 semesters. All of our programs start in September, but we do have an additional entry in January each year for quite a lot of master's courses across business, social sciences, law, and a couple of others. It will always tell you on our course pages on our website if there's a September and a January start, or what the options are, or you can just ask SRUK, or you can contact me. But if you're doing a master's, then it's 1 year and it's split into the 2 semesters, and then you're often doing your project, your thesis at the end. So you do that through the summer to make the end of the year, or if you start in January, you do that at the end of your study period. So that's just an overview, so you know it's 3 years and 1 year. So yeah, if you're doing a master's and an undergrad, you'd normally be looking at 4 years. There are some exceptions to this, and it does depend. Some professional subject areas require more, and I'm happy to answer questions about that. But just for a comparison, as we go into entry requirements, so you understand, so for us in England, high school and schooling in total is 13 years of study. In most countries in the world, it's 11 or 12. And then it's a 3-year bachelor's degree, whereas in most countries you'd be looking at 4 or 5, and a 1-year master's, where you'd often be looking at 2. And a doctorate, PhD, you can see there, obviously it depends the length of time it would take, but that's the structure. It's considered at exactly the same level. It's recognised worldwide. We have the same equivalency. So a 2-year master's for you at home is the same as a 1-year master's in the UK. So you don't need to worry about that. Very well recognised. But the reason it's like this is because in England, we specialise in subject areas from slightly younger. So we take fewer subjects from 14 and 16. So the reason I say this, because if for those of you who are looking at undergraduate, which is quite a few of you, when you look to apply, you will always see the entry requirements for each course on our course page, and it will detail any specific requirements that we have. And for your country, we're happy to take questions, but we have qualifications for many countries in the world on our website, so we have equivalent guidance for you to see what we look for entry. But a lot of people will be studying an education system where you study for 11 or 12 years, and you may find that you're required to take an international foundation programme. That's to make that bridge that gap from the 13-year more specialist system in the UK into a 3-year bachelor's. So sometimes you'll be asked to do a foundation year. If you've done something like an IB course, you're doing the International Baccalaureate, then you can apply directly to university. SRUK can help with all of this and give you much more guidance about you. This is just a very brief introduction to how it all works. So for undergraduate applications, we use UCAS. all the UK universities, the University College Admissions Service, and you can apply via our website, via the course pages. It will take you to the UCAS site. If you're not familiar with UCAS yet, don't worry, have a look at their website, at the introductory video, but again, this is exactly what SI UK counsellors are here to help you with, so you don't need to worry about that. But UCAS allows you to apply for up to 5 institutions or 5 courses in one go. They open in October each year, and you can apply anytime. There's a deadline in January. There are some earlier deadlines if you're interested in medicine or veterinary sciences or Oxford and Cambridge, but for Westminster, for international students, we're very happy to keep considering applications through the year for entry. You need to meet the January deadline for Westminster if you wish to apply for fashion or film. We really encourage you to apply by January if you're able to, for when programs become very full and popular through February, March, we may not have space, but we will happily consider international applicants where we can up till June for the year of entry. So that's the same every year. And to apply, you'll submit your transcripts so far, so whether you're studying school or whether you finished, whatever you have, you write a statement about why you want to do the programme, what you'd like to do. You include a reference from a teacher and then an English language qualification if you have one. If you don't have it yet, you don't need to submit it. You can get that later during the application process. Standard entry requirements, we look for an IELTS 6. I've been asked about that for bachelors. And we accept things like Duolingo, TOEFL. At the moment, we're accepting TOEFL at home, IELTS Indicator, Oxford International. So lots of options. You've got the link to the page there for our English language requirements, and I'll share a lot of these links afterwards as well. And you've got the link again for you to see the qualifications for your country. And if they don't make sense, or you think, well, I have a diploma that's not written here, then just get in touch and ask us, and I can check with my colleague for whichever country it is. So if there's anything more specific required for a course, if it's a portfolio course or there is an interview, we would always state that on the course page. So you should see that there. And I've mentioned the foundation there. So those students who've done 11, 12 years of school need to do that progression and meet that, have that preparation year. We work with Kaplan College in London, who offer a Westminster pathway. So you don't apply via UCAS, you apply directly to Kaplan London, and you come onto a foundation route for your subject area, whether that's social sciences, business, arts, and you would study with them. And then as long as you pass your exams, you progress directly onto the Westminster degree. So you'd be looking at 4 years, a year of foundation plus 3 years of degree. So if you'd like more information about that, do speak to SI UK afterwards and have a look at the link there that you can copy and paste over about our partnership. We also work with many other foundation providers. There are lots of them in the UK and around the world. So we've got a list there. And if you're studying somewhere different and you'd like to know more, just get in touch and ask us about that. So postgraduate students, we've got quite a lot of postgraduates here as well. I'll go through a little bit more about UCAS for you in a moment. But for postgraduate students, you can apply directly. And again, SI UK can do all of this and help you with this whole process. You don't need to worry. But you apply via our course pages. There's an apply now button and it will take you to apply. And again, you're including your qualifications so far, whether you finished those or still taking them, a statement about why you want to do your programme, often 2 references, sometimes 1. That can be academic references, or if you've finished your studies and you're working in your field, you may include a professional reference instead. And then a CV or resume of experience that you have. So that if you're just graduated and you think I have no work experience, that's okay. You'd include projects, internships, anything you might have done part-time during or outside of your study. But if you're someone who's in mid-career, who's been working for 10 years, then obviously we'd look at that more than we'll be looking at your education history. So everybody includes those, and again, an English language requirement. And I have been asked about, I think it was FinTech English requirements. So for master's courses, we ask for IELTS 6.5 or TOEFL, or TOEFL at home, IELTS Indicator, Duolingo. There are many more on that English language page that we accept And again, in terms of checking the entry level, which will always be stated on the course pages for your country and your qualification, then do check our international pages for your country. If it's not there, just get in touch. And again, if it's anything else that you need for the course, so if there's a specific subject area required, because often in the UK, if your first degree is in maybe international relations, but you're really interested in marketing or business now, that's fine. You don't have to study exactly the same subject at masters that you did as your first degree. We're much more open as long as there isn't a specific requirement. So things like biosciences or accounting, there'll be requirements to have that knowledge from the subject area. But across a lot of business, law, social sciences, and creative subjects, even sometimes, there's more flexibility. But it will always tell you if there's a specific requirement. And if you're going to need to provide a portfolio or samples of work, it will tell you that on the page. So that's kind of everything, really. And now I'm going to take questions. But it's a lot of information, I know, but the main things really to keep in mind when you're thinking about the UK and the academic structure is that you've got that 3-year bachelor's, possibly plus a 1-year foundation, then a 1-year master's course, and then research follows on. I know we've got a few people here interested in research. Programmes tend to be a lot more specialised in your subject area. We, across most of our bachelor's programmes, we allow people to take an optional module outside of their area. So you've got a bit more, and there will be programmes where you can take joint honours. So you might want to do something like sociology and criminology and cover 2 areas. But courses are slightly more specialised than you may be used to at home depending on your country and education system. Study is quite independent. You're choosing to come here. It's something you want to do. There's a lot of independent learning. So you're not in class 9 to 5 every day. It very much depends on your subject, but you might be, working on a project with a group. You might be meeting your classmates, preparing a presentation. You might be in the studios working on a brief in your own time or doing some reading. There's a real mix of ways you can learn, and that's really important depending on you as a student and what works for you. It tells you again on all our course pages whether or not it's practical assessments, exams, traditional exams, coursework, presentations. Often there's a mix of those. And in terms of the learning and the teaching, there are some big lectures, and those will probably be continuing online for the foreseeable future. But a lot of it is small seminar groups where you might be a maximum of 20 students, maybe much smaller. Tutorials and short group work where you get to discuss and talk and question things, and the big lectures where you maybe are just more listening and learning. And then lots of opportunity and lots of onus on you to do the reading, to do the research as well, and then bring that into the classroom. And that's really, the UK education system as a whole and how it works. So at Westminster, you would always get a personal tutor as well as your module leaders and your course leader. So for anything academic, you have these different contact points for support. So you don't need to worry, especially, you're coming to a new environment, a new education system. There is support in place for you. We have things like academic writing centres. We have pre-sessional English for people who need a little bit more English before they start a master's or a bachelor's. So there's lots of information about that. But when you're applying, for now at this stage, you want to be looking at the course, looking at the content of the course, choosing the city, the location, and then the institutional environment that you want to be in. And then when you're applying, it really is about the programme and the subject that you're doing. So for some countries, it's much more about you as a person, the whole experience. For the UK and for a Westminster application, so when you're doing your statement, it's very much about why you want to study the subject you're applying to and what your experience and skills are and what your future plan is for that subject. So just a bit of a guide there in terms of how to apply. So lots of people are asking about costs. I saw it a little bit earlier up. So for the University of Westminster, we are £14,400, so about $20,000 per year for those 3 years. Postgraduate courses vary. The majority, so things that I've mentioned, like business, interior design, you're looking at around £14,000 or £15,000 for those. We do have a scholarship scheme. It's only for September 21, is launched now. We are only offering partial scholarships for master's programmes. So if that's you, then do have a look and feel free, welcome to apply and find out more. And if you're a student from a European country who's facing applying post-Brexit and all the changes, we will have more information on our website very soon. There are going to be some opportunities for discounts based on qualifications. So for specific qualifications, wherever you're studying in the world, if you study one of these qualifications, then you may be eligible to differ a discount. And my colleague Michele is actually doing a presentation with SI UK next month, all about this for European applicants. So if that's you, then please join us again in April to find out more about that. So on that, I'm going to finish, and I'm really happy if you'd like to step in and ask questions, Vina or any students, and I'll cover any questions that have been missed. But yeah, while I'm waiting for those, you've got a guide there. People think London, it's a great place. Yes, it'd be a great city. There's all those opportunities we've been through, but actually it's a very expensive city. Well, actually London is no longer one of the most expensive cities in the world. It's not even in the top 10 anymore. We say work out your overall costs, look at those fees. So that 1 year masters, if you're looking at maybe £14,000 for a masters for 1 year, add that up to do with your living costs for a year and all the things. Keep in mind that there are lots of opportunities for work if your visa allows, if you're with us in central London, and also lots of free events, all those galleries, museums, music events on your doorstep. So it can be a really affordable option, and there are some great links there that you can use if you're wanting to work out a budget and get more of an idea. So yes, thank you very much. Have I missed any questions?
Hi, Jane. Thank you so much for the session. I was just about to kind of work backwards with some of the questions and see if we've missed any. So I think we've got one from Saima. She's 20 years old and she's just finished high school and first year of uni. So I think the question kind of revolves more around if they're able to transfer into a second year course of Westminster.
Sorry, where have they just finished the first year of university? Do you know?
She hasn't mentioned it. So Samia, if you can put that in the chat box, that might actually help us.
But maybe I can answer, but sorry, I'm going through, I make everybody feel sick going through the slides. Maybe I can answer based on this. So depending on where you are, we will take a first year of university in lieu of a foundation for that 13-year equivalency, if it's in the relevant subject area. And we can. So then we would probably be looking at, if that's you, into coming into our year one. If you're studying in the UK already and you've done a year of university, then we can consider transfer into year two for most subjects. So yeah, I think for you, Samia, you'd really be looking probably to join our first year, but you wouldn't need to do a foundation route.
Yeah, so she's just mentioned she's from Tunisia.
Yes. So yeah, so be looking to join the first year.
Thank you, Jane. I know if you've already covered this, which seems to be a standard question that comes through to us via YouTube, is about internal English language testing and what alternates can students kind of apply for.
So we've got a huge list on our website. So if you've done IB English, higher or standard level, if you've done Cambridge, CA, CPE, these ones that I can think of, or possibly depending on your high school for your country, we might be able to accept that. So if I maybe put in the chat now the link for the English language pages, you can use that and have a look to see all the different exams we can accept. That's for both undergraduate and postgraduate. I think you're asking about IELTS, is that right? No, we don't just use IELTS. So we accept TOEFL, Duolingo, Cambridge exams, Oxford international exams. Lots of options.
I think there's a student who said he searched and they were told that you have a dental department, but now he's searching again and you're not able to find it. So he wants to find out if it exists.
Yeah, I think that's one we would definitely hand over to Ravina and her colleagues to help you with, because Westminster doesn't offer dentistry, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so Shams, if I'm just going to put down a generic email address for SIUK in the chat box. So if you just drop us an email there, we'll be able to advise you on different dental schools that you can apply to. There's quite a few interesting programs here, Jane, today. So I think there was a student earlier who was asking about artificial intelligence.
Yes, I saw that. And I think, was it a master's program?
I don't think they mentioned the level, and it was a question via YouTube.
So we do have some areas within that. And if I maybe copy into the chat this link to subjects, you can see by subject area. So you'd look in the computing school, you can have a look and see all the programs we offer within those fields.
Brilliant. No, that's really helpful. And I think there's a generic question about what is the cost of studies for international students. Obviously, I guess that would vary based on the subject, but I think a generic sense might help them.
So in terms of the tuition fee, or in terms of living costs as well, do you think?
I think it might just be tuition fee.
So for the tuition fee for undergraduate, it's £14,400 per year for the 3 years. If you do 4 years and you do a work placement, you don't pay tuition fee for that year. You pay just a small admin fee. And if it's masters, it will state on the course page. There are masters of between £12,000 and £21,000, I think. The majority of them are around £14,000, £15,000. And that's for all overseas fee payers. But you can see on our course pages the pricing at the top of the page always for the year of entry. So living costs aren't included in that, and that is just the tuition fee. So I had some links and I will send them through afterwards. So for our accommodation, they're on average about £200 a week. So we say for the whole tenancy for the year, you're looking between £7,000 and £9,000 per year. We have guides about costs for living in London and links to help you budget and work out the total cost. There's also a requirement for your visa application to show you have a sufficient amount of funds, and they consider, please correct me, Ravina, because I know it's just changed. I think it's about £12,500 that they say you need for a year for living in London. So you need to add that on to the tuition fee. But there's some, I'll share the links afterwards, and there's some great resources you can use to work out how much it would cost for your travel and your tuition.
Brilliant, thank you so much, Jane. There's a question about contacts with, like, I think it's about the Career Centre at Westminster, and if you offer any sort of career support and advice.
Yes, we do, and it's not something I've covered as much as I should have done. I've just mentioned it in terms of placements. So we have a career service. We have a really great mentoring scheme as well, which is really popular. We have things like our Creative Enterprise Centre, which is an award-winning student support service, which is like an entrepreneurship hub. They do residential weekends, events, competitions, as well as linking up our contacts in London with our alumni and all industry contacts we have, and offering work placements or projects to students. They originally focused very much on things like those creative industries where you can't do a traditional placement so easily, but they work across the university now. And then we have the, as part of the career service team, a placements team. So whether or not that's a placement that you're doing a part of your degree, it may be included in your degree programme, or whether or not you're looking for some experience and work outside of your study, they support with that as well. Yes, so have a look at our careers pages of our website to find out more about that. And maybe also if you want to look on any of the social media platforms, you'll see information and see what's going on in terms of career support. So there are fairs, events, all the usual things, but you can see more about our mentoring scheme. And also we have a really good, for international students, maybe particularly of interest, our alumni team do a series of What It Takes events with our established alumni around the world. They're doing quite a lot this month. They're visiting, I think they're covering the whole of Africa, it could be Northern Africa, and doing an event for Latin America. So they're virtual at the moment, so we can cover bigger regions. And we're introducing our students and recent alum to some of our older established alumni, and talking through how they were successful in their careers. So there's lots of support and services in place.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jane. We've got a question from a nursing student. So seems to be 18 years old, doing a diploma in nursing. And they're asking, do you know what level I could enter and what are the requirements?
I'm afraid nursing isn't one we cover either. I'm sorry to say, so we wouldn't be able to help. But SRUK have lots of partners who will offer nursing and be able to support you.
Yeah. There's a really good question actually from Anna is about part-time students. Is there a possibility to do like part-time degrees at Westminster then?
So we have them, and you'll see them on the web pages where part-time is an option, but whether you're able to study part-time will depend on your immigration status. So if you are an overseas student applying for a student visa to come and study in the UK, part of the visa requirement is that you study full-time. So if you're coming on a student visa, you will be required to study a full-time programme. If you're sort of settled, pre-settled in the UK, or have residency rights to anyhow, then we have part-time courses and you're of course able to apply, but it's really a visa requirement rather than a university requirement. But do also keep in mind, Anna, that for the study format means that full-time study doesn't mean 9 to 5, Monday to Friday in the classroom. It's often 15 to 20 contact hours a week, depending on your timetable. So it's a fairly different approach to study.
Brilliant. I just want to say to everyone, we've got 4 more minutes in the seminar, so I can see some final questions coming in, but this will be your last chance to kind of ask any questions. So there's a question about how long does it take to get an offer for postgraduate studies?
Okay, so it does depend on the programme. Normally, if you submit everything, we say up to 2 weeks for a decision across the standard programmes. If it's a course where we need to do a portfolio or an interview, then you should hear from us within that time, but it does take longer. There is a caveat to that this year things are taking a bit longer than normal. So please be patient with us just because we're getting so many questions and queries. But if you've applied and you haven't heard, feel free to get in touch with me and I can follow up for you.
Brilliant, thank you, Jane. Is there any last minute things you want to add or anything students kind of should take away from today's presentation?
I think it's a lot of information, but I think to find out more is really good at the moment. There are lots of resources available. You can always look on social media and look at our videos, but just, doesn't have to be official channels to find out about your topic and your study. We've got lots of online events coming up. So if you're interested in a specific subject area, I will share the links after the event. Hopefully I can do that in an email to everybody. So we've got lots of online sessions. You can find them on our website and just register. And we had our undergraduate event last week. There's another one in June coming up, and we've got a postgraduate event next week on the 24th of March. So if you'd like to sign up, you can do a kind of virtual tour, find out more about departments, ask questions directly to academics as well. So really it's a great time this is just the start. I know it was a lot of information for one session, but you don't need to remember it all. Just go away, start to have a look at your course, get in touch with SRUK or with me, and feel free to ask any questions. We don't expect you to know or remember anything at this stage.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jane. I just wanted to add, we're kind of not far off from Westminster's Regent Street campus. So when things go back to normal, if you're already in London, you can always kind of pop into the office and we can guide you on applying to Westminster as well. This presentation is going to be live on YouTube. So I'm going to send a link across to everyone. So if you want to kind of go and rewatch some bits, you can do in your own time. But yeah, thank you so much, Jane, and thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, and thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend all, and hope to see you in London soon.